How are you guys doing? Today is Sunday, May 2nd, 2021, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, because today is Tremaine Edmunds' 23rd birthday, I will do an individual profile on all of his accolades and career accomplishments that he's been able to accomplish up until today. Because out of all the players that play the middle linebacker position, I believe Tremaine Edmunds, as one of the youngest captains in NFL history, is a player that definitely sets himself apart from the rest. And through this profile, I imagine that his accomplishments and his stats can, of course, make the argument that he is, of course, a player that sits in a class of his own. If you're unfamiliar with him, he stands at about 6'5", 250 pounds. He's pretty tall, he's pretty long, he's incredibly rangy, but I think the best thing about him is that he's so intelligent. He reads offensive schemes incredibly well. He was named the captain of the Bills defense at a very, very young age, and and I think he's going to grow incredibly well, considering his best years are most definitely ahead of him on a Buffalo Bills team that was a couple games away from possibly securing their first Super Bowl ever. So just looking a little bit into his background, he's originally from Danville, Virginia. Of course, he would establish himself as a good enough high school player, college prospect to be taken and play at Virginia Tech. He would play his very first season in 2015, and in his very first season, he would play 6 games in a season where Virginia Tech would finish with a 7-6 record. They would end up in the Independence Bowl, and in this season, he would finish with maybe 11 total tackles in the 6 games that he would play. Not much that he was getting going, but of course, his second season, he would start to get recognized as an All-ACC player. His second season at Virginia Tech, he would play all 13 games in a season where they would finish with a 10-4 record. They would finish ranked. After they beat Arkansas in the Belk Bowl, they finished with the 16th best record in the nation, as Tremaine Edmunds finished with 94 total tackles, 4.5 sacks, and he did finish with an interception as well to help his team. He would be named second team All-ACC in his sophomore year, and then in his junior year, he would be named to the first team All-ACC, as he would finish with 108 total tackles, with 14 more than the previous season in 13 games, the same amount of games. He had 5.5 sacks, as Virginia Tech would go on to they would lose to Oklahoma State in the Camping World Bowl with a 9-4 record. But regardless, Tremaine Edmunds would stand out as a linebacker prospect. After his 3 years, he would forego his senior year, and he would be taken in the 2018 NFL Draft with the 16th overall pick. Incredibly young. He would play his first NFL season. He would be 20 years old for the entirety of the season. His first season with Buffalo, he would start all 15 of the games that he would play in a season where they would finish with a 6-10 record. They had 3 less wins than the previous year, in which they would lose to the Jaguars in Sean McDermott's second season coaching the team. But regardless, you'd see Tremaine Edmunds leading, or at least he would finish with 121 combined tackles, which to this date is still the most amount of tackles that he's been able to record in a season. He finished with a couple of sacks. He was also able to finish with 2 interceptions on the season, 2 forced fumbles. He wasn't named to an all-pro team, or he wasn't officially named a Pro Bowler, but after his first season, he would be recognized he would rise into a very important role for the Buffalo Bills team. In his second year, I believe he was named captain of the defensive squad. And in 2019, his second year in the NFL, in his age 21 season, he would start all 16 games in a season where the Bills would finish with a 10-6 record. They had a 4-game improvement from the previous year. Tremaine Edmunds would be named to his very first Pro Bowl in his NFL career, as you would see his combined tackles would go down from 121 to 115. His sacks went down from 2 to 1.5. He would finish with 9 passes defended. He had an interception for himself as well. But of course, he would log a safety, the only safety he logged in his career as well. And the Buffalo Bills would become a lot better as a defensive unit, as they kind of built around Tremaine Edmunds, around his strengths. And once they made it to the playoffs, they would lose in the wild card round at Houston when Deshaun Watson actually kind of torched them in overtime. That would be the end of their 2019 season. But they would be back and stronger than ever in 2020, thanks a lot to their offensive improvements rather than their defensive ones. In 2020, after his very first Pro Bowl season and his second season in the NFL, Tremaine Edmunds would start all 15 of the games that he would play in a season where the Bills would finish with a 13-3 record, which I believe is the best record that they've had since 1991 and 1990, in which they sported the same exact record. Tremaine Edmunds would finish with 119 tackles in those 15 games, with 2 sacks on the season, and 3 passes defended. Even though other than like tackles, his other stats weren't necessarily there, his impact was most definitely felt on one of the best defenses in the entire NFL. At his position at middle linebacker, he was named a Pro Bowler for the second year in a row, which is of course no easy feat to do, especially when this was his age 22 season. And following this amazing season, the Buffalo Bills would make it to the playoffs. They would they would beat the Colts in the first round 27-24 versus Phillip Rivers and company. They would beat the Ravens 17-3 in the second round as they were able to contain Lamar Jackson, containing 2 highly potent offenses that inflicted their will in the regular season. And then they would end up losing in the AFC Championship to the Chiefs, who would end up losing in the Super Bowl to the Buccaneers, just to give a little bit of context. But that's how close Tremaine Edmunds was, and he has been for the last 2 years the most important player on this Buffalo Bills defense moving forward. And as of right now, he's turning 23. He has a lot of incredible football ahead of him. We very well could be looking at and talking about a Hall of Fame career when it's all said and done. But as of right now, I applaud what Tremaine Edmunds has done, and I want to wish Tremaine Edmunds a happy 23rd birthday. I hope all is well. And I want to thank everyone for listening to all 7-8 minutes of this piece. If you ever get a chance, check out Tremaine Edmunds. He is the starting linebacker for the Buffalo Bills, currently wearing 49 and continuing to get better and better as his career continues on. Thanks once again. Today is Sunday, May 2nd, 2021. Out here in this quarantine, I'm James Sims. Thanks for listening to this piece. I hope all is well, and peace out. I will catch you tomorrow.